Everyone's here. We'll do the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty. Everybody sees or received a copy of the meeting agenda ahead of time.
I'll make a motion to approve the regular meeting agenda as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Matt and Cass. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Let's vote.
Brian Lock,
Yes.
Matt O'Daniel.
Yes.
Brenda Wolf.
Yes.
Jason Art.
Yes.
Kathy Klessner.
Yes.
Chase Craddock.
Yes. Motion carries. Agenda item 1.5. So Mr. O'Daniel, due to his many years of service to the Arlington Board of Education, looks like 13. We had to find it and look it up because there was some intermediate in there.
I'm
But
glad when you're having fun, guys.
yeah, so we're glad you could join here in person, especially with everything going on.
Thanks.
So Nebraska Association of School Boards wanted to give you their Level 7 Service Award, which I think just means you've been around for a long time. That's what that means when you get it. I had to look up the Roman numerals because I
Right.
lose track after
Yeah.
a while. So I will give you this, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything you've done for the board and for those in
Oh,
public
you
schools.
got it. It's been 99% of pleasure. That's what I tell everybody. 99% of it's been fun. So, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when I looked up that date, it is actually exactly today. It was
Oh, really?
October 14th. What?
The October meeting,
It's
huh?
it's on the sticky note. Yep.
Okay,
It was the October 14th meeting, 2011.
nice. Yeah.
So
Who knew?
Wow.
who knew?
I was just gonna do this for a few months. Yeah.
So thank you, Matt.
You're welcome.
Agenda item 2 is welcome to the guests. Looks like we may have a couple of people speaking tonight. Agenda is there as well. If you could sign in, we would appreciate it. But with that, I'll turn it over to anybody who would like to address the board tonight.
And I think we had Bill
Mr.
on the
McAllister?
agenda
Yep.
first. Yeah.
What a pleasure it was for me today. Your football coach was my grad assistant in college. And so he told him I was coming up there and he said, "Come on, can you come out and help us?" So I got to work with the football team today a little bit. What a joy that was. But, you know, through this process, I'm Bill McAllister. I'm running for the State Board of Education. People have asked me why are you doing this after 37 years in education in the state of Nebraska? And I understand that is a little bit to understand who I am. So I tell people this, I was born in South Wichita, Kansas. I had 3 fathers, I never had a dad. My first one left before I was 2, my second one was abusive, and my third, we put through alcohol rehab 7 times. Moved to Nebraska, and Mrs. O'Brien in Geneva, Nebraska flunked me. But she taught me how to read. She changed my life. She changed the trajectory of my life. And ever since that point, I've been in education the rest of my life. Now, we're hearing a lot of things in the political scene about how bad our schools are. And I'm opposed to that. I actually kind of take offense to that. The truth of the matter is in District 3, we have 11 excellent rated schools. In other words, 5 out of 5 stars. We have 10 great schools, and we have 4 good schools. We have no schools on needs improvement, no schools on the PLOS list. In other words, consistently low achieving schools. The 4 schools that are on the good list right now, they average just under 20% ELL. They average over 50% free and reduced meals. And they average almost 20% special needs students. Now, there's one school, an outlier in that excellent, great, and good, and that is West Point Public Schools. West Point's public schools is 45%. We are 60% free meals, and almost 20% special ed. 10 years ago, 8 years, 9 years ago, when I came to West Point, we were on the PLOS list, bottom performing school, bottom 5%. Within 7 years, we had an excellent rating. Academic. My point in telling you this is because I think people are trying to whittle away on local control. I've been in Don's seat and I know what that does. Our best avenue for our kids to be successful in rural school is people from their communities voting for you and letting you guys oversee the school. It's not the Department of Education. It is not making decisions based on what's going on in Omaha to run our schools in West Point or Arlington or Fremont or anyplace else. So I'm pretty passionate about that and the avenue. My agenda is I don't have an agenda. I'm not going in there and thinking we have to do something. If I have a gift, it's mediating. It's bringing side together. As you know, when we went through COVID, I had one board member that was so far over here, he didn't even think COVID existed. And I had over here thought we never should go back to school. I put them together in our info meetings on purpose. I said, you guys represent our community. But we knew 35% of our kids didn't have internet. Online learning wasn't an option for West Point. I said, we have to demonstrate that we're going to do what's best for our kids right here. The agenda, if I did have one, is the teacher shortage. I have ideas for the teacher shortage as it relates to certification. We're going to have to do something. We had a librarian opening and we talked a 20 veteran teacher into taking over and we said, we'll pay for you if you be our librarian. So she's been going to school now for 3.5 years. Next semester, she has to student teach. For heaven's sakes, I'm thinking, what are we doing? Why does somebody who's been in education this long have to student teach? There's things that the state board can do that can make some adjustments that makes teaching easier. But the number one thing, I think Nebraska is known for agriculture, as it should be. We also should be known for our education system. We rank 4th in the nation in K-12 education, according to U.S. News Report. We rank 3rd in the nation in ACT scores of states that require the ACT. My opponent wants to change the trajectory of schools. And she will use numbers from a metro school to prove her point. Let's not make rules for them that are going to impact us. I think those decisions have to be made here. I'm kind of passionate about it. And I get tired of people trashing our public schools. Now, while I know you don't, public comment, you can't make comments, but I've been told you can ask clarifying questions. So if you have any of those, I am happy to answer any clarifying questions that you might have for me. And if not, I will say this. How can you help me? How can you help our rural schools? My whole experience has been rural schools. That's what I'm going to substantiate for. If Lisa wins, we're going to have 5 metro area state board members. 4 out of Omaha and 1 out of Lincoln. That's concerning for me. Living my life in rural areas. And rural, I mean outside of the metro, to be honest with you. If I said anything in here that resonates with you, thank you. If I said something that didn't and you disagree with, please contact me. I'd be happy to have further conversations. Now, I know I cannot distribute signs on school property, but what I did do is there a stack of signs across the street right by a trash can. Okay. And you can go on your way out tonight, grab one and put it in your yard. Our rural communities need to know what's at stake here. I think this is important to keep you guys in control of your school. And other than that, you can look me up on goforschools.com. That's my Facebook page. When you see something, share it. I don't know how all that works. I'm not a tech guy, but they say you want people to share that. So that helps, I guess. I don't know. But I appreciate your support. I appreciate the job you guys do here. I'm the only candidate that has been in every school in our district, public and parochial. I've been in every one of them over the last 37 years that I've been in the state. So, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Bill.
Mr. Dwyer.
Yes. Hello, welcome. Gosh, it's been a long time since I've been in the room, especially with a bunch of students. Don asked me to come up and speak a little bit about 673 and the mapping process. I'm assuming for a minute that the board, and certainly the administrators kind of know the background a little bit. 673 became 1329, I think it was, which is kind of the educational omnibus bill. Went through a process, and so now we have at least the structure to be able to offer mapping software to schools. I don't understand the funding system quite as well, because I read through the bill, it's a little bit convoluted. And then you go.
Well, we have to
ESU,
adopt
then
a policy. Yep, we have to adopt a policy. We have to have the policy that allows us to use emergency mapping, before we can apply for the grant funding that they've set aside. And so we have until January to
Doesn't look like
apply
a whole lot
for
to me,
grants. So I haven't looked at the grant yet because we don't have the policy in place. So I'm putting the policy in place first steps tonight, and I know that it was near and dear to your heart when working on that, so.
So all I can probably offer with respect to the mapping software is it's a really, really good deal. No longer a member of the fire department, but in that world, the nature of a response to that, it's pretty ugly. It's pretty chaotic. Even in previous administrations, long before any of the people here that were at the table, occasionally we'd get a call and it would say from the school. Well, we're exactly as the orders in them. Well, which of the three gyms? And long past that, we've done the department and certainly the administrators have done good work to clarify. But if the tones go off in our world for a big ugly like that, it's kind of mass chaos. You probably would have 6, 7, 8, maybe 9 agencies here within a couple of minutes. And everybody's trying to figure out where and when and how and what. And this mapping software would give a lot of clarity to that. So Senator Hansen reached out early. I supported the bill, testified to the bill, and was down wrestling a couple of times to get it passed. I would certainly encourage your support of the resolution and would offer any other help that I can. Again, it's not appropriate to ask for questions, but I'm happy to answer.
A couple of years, right, to get this passed, right? Is it?
At least, yeah, it'd be, I think it was almost 3 years ago when Senator Hansen's office was. So long and that's not unusual for legislative stuff, it takes a while. Questions that I can't really do. Quickly, very quickly about 2 things. Supporting Bill's opponent in the legislative race, in the state education race. Lisa's a great young person, really dynamic, a lot of young, good ideas, fresh ideas, very, very passionate about education, about 20 years in public schools, have 4 kids in that system now. So good people, tremendous work ethic. I've been the walking doors thing with her a couple of times, and so I would just encourage your consideration for that. And I'll leave this with congratulations for Matt. It was such a privilege and pleasure to serve all 216 years with you.
Yeah.
You know, the 99% rule is really, really good. And you also know that it's just work. It's just work. And I was really privileged and blessed to do really good work with a great leader. I've always really respected and appreciated that. So thanks for your service.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that.
And I have another thing, so I'm going to stick out unless there's something I can do.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks, Mike.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Would anybody else like to address the board tonight? All right. On to the consent agenda. In there, you'll see the minutes of the previous board meeting as well as the financials. I'm going to pull up here real quick. So when Matt and I both went through this independently, we called each other and we had a couple clarifying questions for Dr. Lewis, and we pretty much identified the same things. So I just wanted to take them out in case anybody else had any questions. The helmets on there are the refurbishing and new football helmets. That actually happened over the summer, but the bill just happened for your reference, because I thought it was interesting in the middle of the season to see that. And then uniforms, for everyone to know, all the athletic teams are on a rotation for their uniforms every 3 or 4 years. Is that right, Dr. Lewis?
Is it 4 or is it, I think it's at least 4, isn't it, Mr. Mason?
Okay.
Without misappreciated, it's right in that 4-year range.
So they renew those uniforms every 4 years. And that rotation was on those, for those particular athletic programs. And then for women's wrestling, they just had to get some more. Obviously, that's our most recent sport there. The EEV upgrade kit that you see there from DB Nebraska, that was in regard to some more parts for HVAC units and the transformers there. Some parts were going bad and things like that, just to get those up to speed.
So is that actually parts and labor, or is that just?
Yeah, it's parts.
All right.
And then the transmission repair for the van, that was actually a newer van that we only have about 50,000 miles on. So
It was 7 years old, though. It was just outside warranty on that. And, you know, a transmission is cheaper than a vehicle.
so unfortunately, we just hit bad luck with the warranty
Can
and
you remember exactly what it was? They just, something was going wrong. It wasn't shifting the way it was supposed to. And we put it into the
Trash, Joe.
yeah.
Okay.
so. And then Dr. Lewis, you can probably explain this better than me, the area and what it is.
Yeah, so we ordered all of the carpet to do all the areas that we, so the walkout carpet is like the stuff where you come in the doors and you wipe your feet off of it and stuff like that, and vacuum stuff. It's got nice life, and then you don't have to drag rugs all over the place. That we did by the gym entrance, where you come in and then all the way up the ramp. That's part of that, and then we bought enough to do the high school south door where the high school kids come in every morning, and then enough to extend up here a little bit too. We don't have it all installed yet, but we ordered it all at once. So we have what we need.
So
Those
those are the main
explains
things.
me.
Yeah, those are the main things that caught both Matt and I's attention. And
I just let you know, there is an error and I will get that fixed. There is the NSAB one that's on there for the community engagement fees. That was on there last month as my mistake. I just did not get it taken off this time. So that has already been paid. So that's $6,000 would come off there.
Yeah.
I was going
Okay.
through last month's, I missed that one, so I
Okay.
know it's.
And if you look at like the percentage spreadsheets, until the audit is complete and we can completely close the fiscal year, we can't upload the new budget. So it doesn't look like percentage. As soon as they're in, we'll be able to go back and tell them what it is.
I did take a look at them while I was looking at last year's percentages and everything was pretty close, so there wasn't any.
And you'll see the payment on there for doing that audit procedure as well.
On the visa bill, there's, like, on the description, it says TPT. What does that stand for?
Teachers pay teachers. So what teachers can purchase lessons if they're trying to reinforce something that's in the textbook or a lesson that they're teaching their kids if they want to creatively teach something.
So like some of these are probably like books, a joke a day.
It might just be like worksheets and things like that, like
Okay.
reproducibles that they can.
Okay, I was just like, there's a lot of like little things, and I'm like, what the heck are those? Alright,
Yeah, teachers pay teachers. So they're developed, the thought is you created a really cool lesson and you're a teacher, you can put that up there and you can sell it to other teachers.
okay.
Purchase those for
Fancy.
sharing is caring.
Yeah, well,
Also is being paid. Tiny little bit for that lesson, yeah.
perfect.
Anything else, anybody? Other question? Okay. With that, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Rock, paper, scissors.
You were-
Just kidding.
Thank you, Shannon. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Let's vote.
Snort,
Yes.
Chelsea Flesner,
Yes.
Chase Crowderville.
Yes.
Brian Long.
Yes.
All right, agenda item number 4, curriculum reports. We have a whole host of ladies here tonight.
The
So,
whole department.
it might, because I know we have a couple newer faces, it might be good if you could just everybody introduce themselves. I think most people know, but there's still a couple of 2 newer faces, so.
Do you want Scott to go first, or do you want
Yeah, it does not matter, Mr. Sharp, whatever.
you good with that?
Yep.
All right. I'm Sarah Sharp, the Director of Special Education and Student Services. I brought along some fun team. Jamie Smith, Jordan Jenkins, and Charlie Bierman. Charlie is new to us this year. Jordan joined us last year. How many years have we been here?
20.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And how many years have you been here, Mrs.?
It'll be number 6.
Yeah.
6. I think number 6. Yeah. So special education department, we serve 118 kids in the district with IEPs currently. Jordan has 2nd, 3rd, and 5th grade. Charlie provides services for students in 4th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. And then Jamie does 7th through young adult program, transition program. So have them kind of share some fun things they're doing.
I'll start. All right, so I'm gonna stand over here.
So you're not in front of the camera.
Want to be in front of the camera. That happened the last time too. So, yeah, so I'll stand up the wall. Yeah. All right, so one of the things I want to talk about is we added life skills with the middle schoolers. This year before it was just the high students in transitioning. So we had 3 students in the middle school. So we have 10 in our life skills program right now. And Mrs. Deachin can help share the load there. So we technically have 3 different groups within that. We do a lot of group activities, and then we divide out for like the curriculum part of it. So everybody's at different stages and in their what they're learning about. And so when we get back together, we are making lunches once a month for the teachers, which that's always a big. And then we do scooters. So also once a month, and that money that we make off of that goes back into supplies. And we have a group of five young men who are in a functional art class with Mrs. Shotfield, which is super fun. And the things that they're making in the art class, they're signing down at Roots to Wayne. So whatever we make there also goes back into that for that. So that's kind of a fun thing there too. Thank you again for approving Unified. We're super excited with that and just kind of getting things rolling on that end. And our group went 2 games on the green in Bennington. And the end of the month, 28th, we're going to do our Eagles Nest, which is like the games on the green in Bennington. We're doing it at Fontenelle. So it's going to be kind of our kickoff to what all do we need to do and get ready to before we invite other schools in. So it's kind of our trial run with that. So we're excited about that. Yeah, I think that's pretty much. So thank you.
I'm not one for standing in front of people, but just kind of what we're doing at the elementary level, it's kind of new this year and more consistent, is they've implemented a lot of like social groups. This is kind of more so at the younger level, but we have like the curriculum, like zones of regulation, where they kind of goes through each of the emotions, like inside out style or just with colors. And you can kind of go through and talk about what those look like, and then also some coping strategies and things like that. So we're kind of catching them at the lower level and getting those. I think they're able to meet like daily, which is really awesome that we're given that time and the consistency. Some others, they have like Spot of Emotion that I think that they just, that has some good books and things like that too. And I think that's kind of built the framework. And then if we need to kind of use some of that for some of our older grades, which we know upper and lower can be a little bit different with some of those kids, but it seems to be working really well at the elementary level, and the kids really like it too. And hopefully giving them some of those skills with some of those big emotions and size of problem and things like that that we're seeing more and more. So
No, it's my turn. I'm gonna stay over here. So I'm talking about our community of practice. And about once a semester, we meet with local buildings, DC West, Blair, and there's one other one. What is it?
DC West there, Fort Calhoun, and then ESU 3.
And ESU 3. So we meet together once a semester to collaborate as resource teachers. It's a really good opportunity because we find resources that other people are doing that are working well in their building, and then we bring that resource to here and we implement it here, and vice versa. We share what we know or how do we have best practices and we share with them. So this, we call it COP, but community of practice is a good way to collaborate with other educators outside of our building. I know Jordan and I and the other two are awesome in elementary, but we don't know everything. And so reaching out to other people is really awesome for us, and it's a great opportunity. Our next meeting is in November, and we will be doing it at Roots to Wings.
Yes.
So we're really excited about that. And if you're bored and you come out, we'll be down there.
We're also getting ready in November. There'll be 2 high school teachers, 2 elementary teachers, sped teachers, and myself, and then Holly Toff. We're going to attend the Tri-State Sped Law Conference. So that's always an exciting. I really enjoy it. It's about all the laws that have been passed and any court cases, that are going on in the sped world. So, yeah. You guys have any questions for us?
Does that happen every year?
Yeah, we're just talking about how that sounds interesting.
It isn't it?
Oh my God. Yes, sped laws every year.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Awesome.
For the ladies.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
I guess I
Mrs.
we're next.
Christensen is yes. Yep.
All right, I'm Jennifer Christensen, and I get to work with kindergarten through 2nd grade with Title I reading.
And I'm Amanda Dennis. I work K-5 this year for math intervention.
And then we're missing my other half, Leslie Boobles. It decided that roughing tonight was more exciting. So she goes to 3-6 reading intervention. But for me, right now, I get to see 34 kids, K2. I see 17 kindergartners, 10 first graders, and 7 second graders right now. Out of those 34 that I'm seeing, the kinders are for just a real short amount of time. I just kind of am quickly getting my hands on them, but I won't actually get more of a intense group going until semester. The other kids, there's 11 groups throughout the day, and I get to meet with them for about 25 minutes each in those groups, and they vary from 1 student to 3. So we're able to keep those numbers pretty small and really get our hands on them and make sure we're hitting their needs, hitting all the things that they need. 5 out of the, really I didn't count kinders when I was looking at this demographic, but out of the 17 first and second graders, 5 of those students that I see are new to our school this year. So I thought that was kind of an interesting little tidbit. I use a new curriculum currently. I started using it last year, and when we had made the shift in K2 with the Super Kids program, which is phenomenal, we really felt that we needed to make a shift with our title as well. So I'm using UFLY. It stands for University of Florida Learning Institute. Fabulous correlation there, and it's going well. We're seeing lots of kids moving out of title, which is wonderful. That's what we want to see happen. And I'm able to pull new kids in and get hands on them. So it's been a great marriage between classroom and intervention that we're seeing going well. So that's kind of what's happening in my world currently.
Mrs. Christian, sorry to interrupt you.
Yes.
Could you, I think it'd be good, when you say moving out of title, for us that don't work in that world, what do you mean by that?
Sure, absolutely. So every so often we do a little check for understandings 3 times a year. So beginning of the year, middle of the year, and end of the year. And so beginning of the year, end of the year, we have their numbers. And so then I'm able to kind of see who is with me in past years, and then how numbers change and move to the beginning of the year. And we take kids that are most at risk, we'll most in need of services, and it helps us to decide where we should put them for making sure they're getting the small group work that they need. So for some of them, instead of getting title from me, they've moved into RTI, which is a little bit less intense instruction than receiving title services. So we're seeing kids moving in the right direction with the instruction they're getting.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I am currently seeing 38 kids, K-5. Again, like Mrs. Christensen, I'm seeing like 12 kindergartners, and they're just real short, like less than 5-minute interventions with them. I've got 10 first graders, 5 second, 4 third graders, 14 fourth graders, and 2 fifth graders. And I also have a new curriculum that is a little bit more intense than the last, a little bit more direct instruction than the previous curriculum that we had, which was mostly just games and things. So this has an actual like intense instruction that they're receiving now. So yeah, just like the title and the reading intervention, we do those checks for understanding as well. And my groups also tend to be a little bit more fluid because just the nature of math, you know, they can be really good at adding and not so great at geometry skills, right? So that does work a little bit, but the curriculum that I have doesn't have a lot of like the geometry skills in it. It's more like just building that number sense type things, which is mostly the kids I'm working with.
Mrs. Dennis, you mentioned the fourth grade kind of popped out. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah.
I don't want to get too much into reasons. I understand that.
It's just like that's the group of kids that like went through COVID, like their kindergarten year was when maths like.
Yeah, I was doing the math and I didn't want to assume things, but.
Yeah, like we're seeing a lot of those repercussions in that grade level right now, so.
And our fabulous fourth teachers are really taking that head on this year and come up with some creative ways to try to intervene, and we're getting our hands on them even more. So we're lucky to have some great teachers here that are noticing it and trying to step in, so.
And you both talked about you just very short time with the kindergarten students. Do you see a lot of those return on the first grade, or some of them the thresholds they need to and then you don't see them? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. For a lot of them, it's just exposure. They haven't had opportunity to do preschool, or they're just new to the education setting. So just getting used to that is a big piece of it. And for most of them, once they've had extra opportunities to practice, they kind of get up and flying. But then that second half of the year, we'll start to get our hands on the ones that maybe need a little extra session with us, and then we extend the amount of time that we see them. So usually the numbers decrease. Actually, this year we're getting the chance to work with them sooner than a lot of years, which is great. So we did some shifting in how we set things up, and we're lucky enough to get our hands on them sooner this year. So.
And I would also add to that, just from years past too, like a lot of the times, like we do see some of the same kids year to year, but we definitely have kids leaving us and going back to the general ed instruction. So
is it pretty common? I kind of noticing when you were like earlier years, you have a bit more, and it kind of common for every year. Obviously, that fourth grade classes. Yeah. But is that pretty common to see kids kind of weed their way out, get back to regular instruction?
Yes. Okay. So the whole theory is let's get our hands on them while they're young and get those gaps filled young, because the longer it goes on, the harder it is to fill. So if we can fill those gaps now, we try to get as many of them in as we can. Sometimes our schedules are slightly chaotic, but we're trying to get our hands on as many of them as possible. We want more of those numbers just so that as they go up, hopefully we can see fewer numbers. That's what ultimately we want. So, and to keep them in regular ed and not need the support of special ed. So hopefully if we're doing our job well, that is the ultimate goal. So
outside of the three of you, is there any additional like paras and stuff that you work with as well? So how many total are in your routine?
Well, brittle layman is what we call RTI, which is reading intervention that she gives to students. So if I can't get to them and they're kind of right on the edge of just kind of walking the line and seeing the need for some extra support, then she will do an intervention with them. But for math, we don't have any other paras that are running interventions
Other than-
specifically.
Yeah, to the parents that are in the classrooms helping the teachers,
Yeah.
but they don't have like specific things that they're doing. Like
Okay.
Any questions?
Any other questions? Perfect. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. Feel free to, if you need to go, I'll pull it against you. So I'll let you exit here now. Thank you, everybody. All right, we will move on to agenda item 5, principal's report. Mr. Shade is up first. I'm guessing he's got an athletic event tonight or something else, so who would like to volunteer as tribute for Mr. Shade?
Sounds good. He looks like he captured pink out. Will be pink out games for volleyball. They're gonna kind of have that tribute all month long, and then football at our last home game. We had homecoming, so he captured the spirit days that we had, so that was excellent. During homecoming, Senator Lynn Walls received various awards. So ultimately, that was part of a halftime celebration, so well deserved. We got our homecoming king and queen, Zane and Libby, well deserved. So we got a picture of them. And there you go.
All right, we'll give Mr. Faison a little break here, and Dr. Morgan.
Great, this is, I can't concentrate and do all the things tonight. Okay. All right, we both 5th and 6th grade did their outdoor education this past month. So 6th grade goes out to Camp Continental. They do some gravestone rubbing. They learn the history of the area. They do some tree climbing. I think there's a zip line and a rock wall and all the fun things. So they're out there learning and exploring. 5th grade goes out to DeSoto Bend. This year was much more successful as the bees were not a problem. Last year we had some bees. So they learned about how to run from bees last year. And they brought home some ticks last year.
Always
And we
learning.
didn't have any of those experiences this year. Some would say that's less of an experience. I found it, and the nurse found it to be much more rewarding. So 1st grade also had a field trip. They studied the life cycles of pumpkins and went out to Dallas and they got to get their own pumpkins well out. I also have homecoming picture there. Elementary students, the last couple of years have participated in rec days, and then we go to the pep rally, which we're fine tuning over time. But there was a video, but it was not videoing. I didn't know how to say it as a video, but this is of the kids singing the fight song, which is always fun. It's neat to see, but when they're all together in a room, and then we always challenge the elementary kids to be louder than the high schoolers, and they win. Just saying, for the record.
They are pretty darn good at
And they're pretty
the
stinking
fight song.
cute
They're
too.
good at it.
Yeah, yeah,
impressive.
they went all the way around, so
Mhm.
they are. I will say though, like, putting it away football games when we don't have a band and things, like, the parents are getting into a band, like, people are learning it. It's a thing. We're doing it. All right, that's it. That's all I got.
Sounds good. I'll just jump on board with that. Homecoming pep rally, one of the things that we did this year different is we did it during around our lunch TA time. A lot of times we do it at the end of the day. We lose a lot of our seniors that do our school to work stuff. So we incorporated it at that time, and then we were able to balance out having the elementary be a part of it, and then having the high school part of it as well. So it was a good one. So you see that. I just tried to capture some things just so that you're aware of some just various things that have going on with our kids. We've done the Valley Equipment Rodeo. We had a college and career fair at Fremont for junior. Applied to college, they was successful. We had a lot of seniors have already applied to a lot of places, or they know where their next steps are going, but 22 seniors completed 54 applications in that hour and a half period. So ultimately, we have reps from a lot of the area schools there, so that helped out a lot. Jamie talked about the games on the green, and then talked about the one that we're hosting up in Fontenelle, which I didn't include in here. Again, this is not comprehensive, but we had a guest speaker come and talk to us this last week. A gentleman who made a poor choice regarding his drinking and driving, and then the lessons that he learned. He's paralyzed from the waist down. So, talk to the kids about choices that way, but more about being in control of their life, like different things that way. So, his name is Steve M. You can look that up as well. We have a new athletic training class. They're going to take a visit to UNL. I'm trying to coordinate that with, we're hopeful with some of the new athletic training facilities that they have. Don't know if we're going to see the new state of the art, but all of it is pretty solid for UNL. We get a lot of other things, just a variety of other things. This is not meant to be comprehensive. I captured homecoming stuff. I put the cornhole tournament in here as a reminder to talk to everybody. This is the first year that we will have a dedicated junior high girls wrestling schedule that is in the kind of fall winter calendar. It's really the beginning of the winter calendar. So there was a lot of work for the coaches. So I wanted to capture that they had a fundraiser here this weekend to try to raise some money that way. Had a pretty good turnout. But just work that has done. Last year, that season was tied to the just junior high season, and that causes not controversy, just the student has to choose, am I going to do basketball or am I going to wrestle as a female student? So, or they do both and they give neither one their due diligence, or they do, but it just doesn't work out. So, the season before Christmas then opens up our female athletes in the junior high to be able to participate in more sports if they would like to, just like the male athletes. And they could before it just was two of them in the same season. So
That's a lot.
Several schools that do that now, right?
Right. So that was coordinating with a lot of schools in the area about making that change. I mean, so you just make that change and be a standalone.
Literally wrestle.
Yeah, very good.
So it kind of everybody recognized that, and then just as an emerging sport, these are the things that you learn you have to put together. So, and then a big shout out to our staff there who's working good with the kids. And then I want to capture some co-curricular stuff. Things coming up. Those are the main ones with FFA and FBLA. So they're taking off within the next couple weeks. I think FBLA is like November 10th, but FFA is next week. And they've had a lot of things going on. So FFA has started as well. So induction ceremony for NHS we might have to move because of the FFA. We thought they were leaving a little bit later. They're leaving on Monday, so we got a couple of students who would be missing them. We want them to miss their NHS inductions. Move that so that date's wrong. But then we kicked off with some variety of clubs, book club, art club, a lot of other stuff. So
NHS, you guys are still working on that then?
yeah.
Because I know there's some parents that are very concerned about that.
Yeah. So what has happened is we did the NHS induction ceremony, tied it to honors night in years past. I think last year we moved it, or we made it earlier. I forget what. I think last year was standalone for the first year. So we liked that because it had always been kind of an afterthought to the honors night. You kind of have a big group of people that are kind of transitioning out, but conversations and whatnot, and you're trying to loop them out because we're set up over here. And I don't know, just for NHS induction, we wanted a little bit more. Yeah. So then now we're finding a lot of controversies with dates. So yeah. So that is shortly to. We've already secured another date that didn't work, and then one of them was the We didn't realize till noon today, that's taking place on the 30th. So, we're like, well, we're not gonna go, against that so anyway. We got 2 sponsors who are on it and we'll figure it out. So,
Perfect.
but thank you for that. It's good to hear.
Yeah, there's some parents that are very concerned. They're
Okay.
like really bummed, I
Okay.
think, really, that they weren't going, that it wasn't gonna work.
Yeah,
Their kids had to choose.
yeah.
So,
And we're gonna get that figured out.
okay, cool.
Yeah,
Good.
we looked today, then we looked at Sunday, and I'm not big on that.
Yeah.
So we'll find a day. Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you, Dr. Morgan.
Thanks. Agenda item 6, superintendent's. Dr. you have a few things.
I have a few things, yeah. So the first meeting of the Commissioners Superintendent Advisory Council was held in this year. And it was the day we didn't have school, so, and those people, they come to our events and like all the time. I don't know why so I went. It was a long drive. Some good stuff. The first thing we talked about is, he asked for guidance, like, what do you need from the State Board of Education on a few things? Asked in particular, do you want, because there's a lot of push for cell phone policies now, like cell phone bans and things like that, what direction do you want? Kind of in that direction of local control, so let us decide what we're going to do rather than, because we do what, like our senator proposed to try and turn into a law a couple of years ago, which is like put them in, in a container when you walk into a classroom, you can get them when you the law. Well, we're doing those things. A lot of schools are doing those things. Some are doing bans, complete. So anyway, he asked for some direction, and basically the group told him, we'll figure that one out. We don't need you to spend time trying to pick out a policy for us. We talked a lot about assessment systems because we've been looking for a new NSCAS vehicle for the past year. They've kind of been going through their process of requests for proposals and requests for qualifications and doing some surveys. What do you want your test to do? It was kind of interesting. We were told that they were accepting proposals from 3 groups that were not NWEA maps, but it was NWEA maps. So maybe they comparatively, I don't know, compared to what they had, maybe they just didn't ask maps for a proposal because they knew what maps was all about. Anyway, the new test will be NSCAS maps. So they're working on the adaptability pieces. It looks like that there's going to be maybe a little bit more flexibility of which measure we're using. However, we do have papers of it now, the growth portion, whatever. So the non-NSCAS part of maps is now the school's obligation to pay for a while. It was not. So we'll learn more as that rolls around. As far as accountability going, they'll be identifying new schools for targeted support for instruction, and I forget what CSI and ATSI means. But different levels of assistance that schools were identified as needing based on performance of certain groups on the NSCAS assessment. If you recall us talking about, I believe that we were ATSI, which is kind of a monitoring our junior high sped population or something like that last year. And so they'll be re-identifying groups and moving schools off and things like that. I forget what the exact statistic was, but I believe out of however many school buildings, because it's school buildings, it's not school districts in the state, like 80% of them were in some sort of a status, either a TSI, CSI, or ASI in some subgroup in their school districts. So they're looking at new screeners, which could be potentially used. So we were kind of told to not choose, because our school is in the process of looking at different screeners around the end of a subscription that we had with FastBridge and some other things. Great time to choose a new screener, because within a year we're probably going to have a list of their approved screeners. So they will, like, so when our ladies are talking about interventions and things like that, these are the quick, small, like the I don't know, down and dirty assessments, the quick ones. They take maybe it's a 5-minute measure in reading fluency, and then it's an assessment they go through. So they try and identify the problems that we can tackle with title or with interventions or with special education needs. So we call them universal screeners.
Gotcha.
It's not quite like a full-blown math test. Some of the basic one, the one everyone does, but we have maps, we have Fastbridge. They talked a little bit about the special session. I think we've moved on from right now. We do anticipate more talk about school funding and the regular session when that begins. Rule 10, early childhood, talks about what we need from our school district as far as a policy about whether we will or will not be serving 5-year-olds in preschool. They talked about some home visits and some parent trainings and some things like that. The Nebraska Literacy Project, they have some goals for literacy, for attendance, for quality teachers. They've got a grant, so they're going to be pushing like training for they're calling the science of reading, which I believe our staff is kind of
That's our letter.
that lettering. I thought that's what we were already doing. But there is the state has secured $55 million in grant funding to train trainers at service units so they can provide training to teachers in their school, the districts and their units. And that's a possibility. They're not for sure if that's what's going to happen with the money, but that's the vision right now. And then you just kind of asked us for what things are on our mind and what they should be watching out for. So part of the purpose of this meeting is for us to come out into our school boards and tell everybody what is going on. It's to increase the communication between the Department of Education and the State Board of Education and our local stakeholders. So that's why I gave you such a long report. I can agree with you there, but you can read at length. Does anybody have questions on those right now? I will not have to go stats, but the next ones will be in LinkedIn a lot. So. I can just yeah.
The only one that I saw on there was talking about attendance. Is that, I know that was something that I feel like we were on kind of the cusp of that. Like I feel like Arlington got out of that before it was a real issue maybe. And I don't know.
We did some brainstorming to tackle the excessive absenteeism and the waiver of taking finals has worked well. It's gone a long ways, I think, to improve our excessive absenteeism. We don't have, our statewide report card ready to go yet, so we can't really do that direct comparison. I think we dropped like 6 percentage points in excessive absenteeism. We can track that back to, it was the first year of that implementation of waiver of the finals versus the second year. Because we started at like the end of that year and then into the next. So there was a big difference. Kids were excessively absent because of that. But, we're not the only school having the issues. COVID kind of created that feeling like, school's, it's not a big deal if you stay home. It's not a big deal if you miss. And, our interventionists talked too about that kindergarten class who were masked during COVID, all of a sudden it is catching up, and it's a class that's requiring more interventions now than before. And it would be, I think we have to seriously consider that was their first year in school. They had to wear masks.
Right.
And they were probably absent large chunks of time because the health guidelines at that time said you have to be done. You were exposed, and then you had to sit out, and so many days they had to miss. So
were out for 2 weeks.
So we know statistically the reason that the state lost is that at 10 days per semester, 20 days per year is excessive absenteeism, because we know that student performance and assessment scores are lower if you miss more than those days. That's why it's important. Anyway. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Our policy, not really a policy that's going to go in the policy manual, but it will be our operating policy. So Mrs. Sharp and Mrs. Barth, who is our preschool teacher, and Dr. Morgan and I talked about this. So our thought is under normal circumstances, we won't enroll 5-year-olds typically progressing, ready for school into our public preschool. They have other options if they want to do another year of preschool. Our preschool model here on site is that peer models primarily serve special education students that are already verified with IEPs. So it's more a decision of the IEP team, whether that students, if they're age appropriate to be in kindergarten, is socially and intellectually ready to be in kindergarten or not. So our school policy, we feel going forward, is going to be normally functioning 5-year-olds whose parents want to hold them back a year, redshirt them, whatever you want to call it. We will not enroll them in public preschool. If a student has an IEP, we'll follow free and appropriate public education and place them in the least restrictive environment. We will definitely consider the fact that they are supposed to be, like under normal circumstances, a 5-year-old, if they are verified, should be in with normal 5-year-olds. But we'll look at that, like how 5 is 5, right? If you turn 5 in January, that's different than turning 5 in July as well. So we will follow the law and let the IEP teams determine that. So we might have a special education 5-year-old re-enrolled in our preschool if the IEP team deems that's where the best placement for them. Did I say all of that right, Jackie?
Yeah, and really the emphasis to this is that law that was passed that said that parents can request 5-year-olds staying in preschool for another year to essentially redshirt, if you will, that law was just passed.
It just came up, and it really is. It's not, that one's not so much about parents' requests, but before it was not legal.
Not legal.
It was not legal for a publicly funded preschool to have a 5-year-old in it. You could create, some schools created like a junior kindergarten, it was kind of that bridge, and they went to kindergarten, but they did it 2 years, or, it was kind of funky. But this enables public preschools, which are becoming more and more common in public schools, to enroll 5-year-olds.
Right.
That's what they,
Yeah.
if the parents request and they have room, and that's what they want to do.
Yeah. We do not have room, just for the record. That's
the other thing I was thinking of.
That's
I mean, as long as I've been
yeah.
here, we've been very full.
In the 10 years that I've been here, the only 3-year-olds we've ever taken into our, mostly the only 3-year-olds we've ever taken are the ones that have IEPs. Our peer models, typically, we do not have any 3-year-old peer models because we don't have space, because we try to get every 4-year-old in to get them ready for kindergarten, so. And it was given to us advisement to have a policy, that a practicing policy that we.
Those decisions and.
Yeah. It takes the
Power,
guesswork out of anything.
yes.
Yeah.
Mhm, yeah.
So this will probably become part of like our preschool handbook, and probably our elementary handbook as well,
Yeah.
because it impacts both.
So because this is a policy, is this gonna be something that we have to vote in?
I'll have
or
to check on
vote
that, because a lot of our
or-
handbook policies, some of them are board policies and some are just how we operate.
We approve of the handbook
Yes.
every year.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is going in the handbook.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Your NASB and your NERCSA updates are attached there, so you can read those at your leisure. I have an updated enrollment report. So this is our October 1st snapshot. This becomes important later on, too, in the board meeting when we're talking about our option policies. So you can see we began the year in September with 708 enrolled, and then through attrition and there's been some moves already, and there's been some change replacements for students. So we're at 705 right now, which is what we ended the school year at last year. So we've been really consistent in that between 705 and 710. We had that anomaly in August last year where things were booming, and then that kind of settled itself down for a while there. And then you can see our option numbers at the bottom too. And I did a little gray chart there that has the net change of which classes have more. And it's interesting, especially in high school, when you start looking at some of the classes. Like we lost a class that was really, really heavy in option in and option out. So that was kind of a big change from last year. But the net numbers are there on this side. So we've got a couple of classes that are negative and a couple that are heavy on options, and some that just are pretty neutral as far as that goes. The number is higher. The net option is higher. And the number in is higher and the number out is lower. So we're not filling any, like we still have room in all of the classrooms. They were still reasonable actually at the elementary level to split into 3 according to our board policy, our split policy. So and we never fill those classes. So I think our biggest class in the elementary is probably, we have either 24 students big in 5th or 6th grade. Yeah. And so
No, our highest is like
19 per classroom, which is a great teachable size.
Yeah, and that actually, our largest class size is the 2 section, is the one.
It's right, that's only, right, so that's,
It actually might be 20.
there, I think it's 19 and 20.
Yes.
I think there's 30 and 20.
39 is what it says here, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So that's, so the reason that this October 1st one is important is because that's what all of our state aid will be based on next year at this time.
Okay.
There are a couple in here that, that I'll talk with, Mrs. Toft and Mrs. Miller about, that there's some students that probably we have to discuss whether or not they still need to be optioned in or not based on some circumstances that have changed in there, but it was captured on October 1st snapshot. So by the end of the year, that option in number might go down a little bit just because of a couple of things. But as far as the state is concerned, this is what our state aid and our option that will be based on next year.
Do we limit like class size? Like we can only have 70 kids, that is the biggest class, like is there a specific number that we go by?
Yeah, and that's coming up in the option policy when we get into new business.
It'd be section size.
Yeah,
Yep.
section
Section
size, we've got
size, okay.
section size, and then we've got total class size when you get 7 through 12. The State Board of Education Conference is coming up. I was gonna get the date on here and I did not, but it's always the week before Thanksgiving. So, start looking at your calendars. Thank you, the 21st. Is it and the 22nd, those 2 days, Thursdays, the 21st?
Yeah, it's the after my birthday. That's
Oh,
the reason
all
I
right.
wrote it.
Happy birthday, Michelle.
Yeah.
All right, let's see, large party for you.
Already got my stuff in the bin.
So anyway, take a look at the calendars and let me know. It's not an issue for us typically to do rooms. I know in some districts that come from quite a ways, they need to get their room registration in anyway, to get rooms. But, so just look at your calendars and see if you're wanting to attend, and then you can email me if you think that's gonna work and we can get you registered. All right, and then Chase and I had a meeting with Kaden and Marcia. It was before the regional meeting that we had in Fremont. We sat and visited with them. A little bit about what the community engagement process was and the data that we got from that, and then moving forward to strategic planning. So what we learned is they basically have kind of, I feel like they were telling us like a new instrument or a better instrument to analyze the data that they collected from all of this, and that we'd be getting like a better rollout, maybe one that's not like a 60-page PDF.
I think when we all got that report for the feedback, I think it's fair to say in there, where do you start with it all?
Yeah.
Because I know we all looked at it. So that was a lot of questions we had for Katie, and they wrap that whole report in to strategic planning to better address it or better understand it. So it's, the good news is we don't have to do a whole lot with the data we already had, as it's all going to be incorporated on this end of things with MSP.
Mm-hmm. And then moving forward to strategic planning, what we're looking at here is we're talking about fees. It's not nearly the cost as the community engagement was. It's about another $3,000 add-on over the course of the year. And for that price, they stick with you like for a year. This was understanding. Like once we're signed up to do the strategic planning with them, if it takes 3 years, there's not going to be another fee that goes.
Yeah.
There might be some incidents, but that is the fee. So.
Yeah, they work with you for about 5 or 6 years
Yeah.
on implementing and checking up on how these going. So, yep.
So with that, I mean, I haven't signed anything yet, but the cost in there, if you guys just, I think we were all interested, we were all on board with moving forward with that. So the $3,500 is well underneath the $10,000. I just wanted to make sure that everybody was on board, we were all on the same page. Looks like we're gonna get better at what we did with the community engagement already, and then I'll get this signed and sent off, and we'll start moving forward with that. That will have some good talking points again by the time we're ready for another community meeting in January.
Yeah, it'd be good timing.
Have we said for that yet? And I'm not suggesting that it's necessary we do it tonight.
But we
Didn't we kind of talk about
We
Last
kind of
Monday of
discussed it,
January.
yeah, the last Monday, I was
last
seeing,
Monday, January.
I think we kind of, yeah.
Because some reason there's no.
No, there is a game that day.
There
Oh,
is
is
that
there?
time.
January is NCAA tournament.
Well, that moved. Usually that's the first week of February.
It used to,
She said it's a.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry,
It's
sorry, not that. NCC tournament,
The capital conference.
my bad.
Conference tournament.
NCC
Yeah.
tournament.
So I
Yes.
think in the past, is that, maybe that been the plan for the conference tournament?
Possibly. It'd be similar format to what's going on tonight, probably.
Maybe
Probably.
at the next meeting,
We'll take.
we'll work with
that.
Mr. Shada too,
Yeah.
because he'll understand some context on getting maybe locking it in. That's a good reminder.
Cause that week after that, there's nothing on the calendar.
Right.
February 3rd. A Monday?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like 20.
the 27th. But then February 3rd, as of right, there's nothing on the calendar for sports wise. Well, basketball. Anyway, I don't know about wrestling.
They shouldn't do anything on Monday.
Oh, I have wrestling. No, there's nothing on there for,
Is there a junior high? Well,
Soup suppers, like,
oh, music,
okay,
February 3rd
yeah.
in Blue.
Okay, well, we'll look at,
Yeah, we'll put that on the agenda for next month and
Yeah.
lock in the date for that.
Yeah. Alright. So I'll get that sent out to you.
Perfect. We'll go to agenda item 7, committee of your own reports, American Civics.
Before the board meeting at 6:30. So several people here in the room are part of that conversation, including Dr. Morgan and Mr. Kingston, Shannon and Brian. So I'm gonna turn it over.
So we just went over, the curriculum adoption cycle. We list the first year of math implementation and science is up. Review for, was it fine arts?
Music and finance, yeah, fun language.
Looking at spending some dollars that are typically not spent, on music instruments and that sort of thing, so it's their year for their cycle. And then talked about the activities that they do for, oh my God. Sorry, you're just like bananas. They say the Pledge of Allegiance every day, both sides of the building, and celebrate all of the civic holidays. And seniors are coming to, they're required to come to a meeting. It's all the same stuff we talked about last time.
Talk a little bit about the Veterans Day program and some ideas that we're gonna do. We don't like it to be the same every year, so. We do some new things with the digital boards.
You're doing that a different
Sounds like.
day this year, aren't you? Oh,
On Veterans Month.
for some reason, I was
Like,
last year, okay.
implementing the video boards is maybe. Yeah.
that's what it's different.
Buildings and ground?
We've met
Was that last Friday?
on a Friday morning, 2 weeks, yeah, well, like 10 days ago, something like that, yeah. So, we reviewed, DLR options for engaging for further facilities planning, and we talked a little bit, about, some concrete, that was part of the addition project that is in a well. They've had people out looking at it, and they're gonna make it right for us. And then we discussed, look at that parking lot again, yeah, paving on the south side of the street there by the football field again, so.
Do we know roughly how many square feet that is?
Oh,
About an acre.
Lawrence had it worked out too, he knew exactly what it was.
It was
so.
50 by what? 600 feet. or
50 by
something.
long, yeah, I think 600 sounds right.
If you go all the way down to the.
If you go all the way down the end of the fence.
Yeah.
Oh, to the, okay, so not, so all the way to the sidewalk.
It's from the barn all the way, almost all the way to the side.
Well, we've got some drainage issues over there by that building. So
It
because
all goes to
that
the,
building,
But the
the
gravel
water
sets
flows
up
in
pretty
it,
high over the
not
edge of the
out of
church too.
It's
Yeah.
always nice, yeah, so.
yeah.
Need a swale in there or something.
I think they can make that work, just slope it away from the street. I
Did
think
you
it
look
might,
at
it'll be a pretty good swale, but I think it can work. Yeah, I looked at that, at football game.
Lawrence and I walked out and took a look at it too. So you'll see that later on. We know the scope of that is going to be over the limit, which we have to advertise. So,
Yeah.
so we'll be talking about advertising for that. Knowing, knowing full well that it's a project we may or may not be in a position to do right now, and we'll make sure
Yeah.
that
But then you can plan the budget.
we're estimates for consideration, so we can plan moving
No,
forward.
yeah.
And we do have funds in depreciation, we have funds in that could likely be used for that. So if the bids come in and it looks like we've been talking about this for 5-6 years, and it's probably, it's been on our summative needs list for quite some time, so. Let's see what we get. I mean, it's possible to do it in 2 phases too.
Yeah.
So.
What's happening with the activity entrance? Is that, I know we took out the fence, but there's still all this weird concrete, and there's still not really a thing that says, hello, come in here.
So I think the conversation now is that there's so many drainage issues with that and things like that. It looks like with the fence. but
It
there is
does.
a weird kind of concrete, and I'm
Yeah.
still, every time I talk to Lawrence, about, our family members that we have that live in T, there's like, wheels, and he wants to just like go and steal one out of somebody's front yard. We're not gonna do that. So we do wanna decorate that up there, but we're finding that DLR engagement options too, when we're looking at
Yeah.
information from our community engagement.
Yeah.
And talking about possible renovation of, ag and industrial technology
Mhm.
and all of that kind of tying into that entrance right there.
Yeah.
Into the water.
I believe
work
it's
on it
sitting
right now.
till-
Is there something that we can
Shop
do for
drive.
signage wise? Cause that's one thing I've noticed, like, a little later. That there's families that go to different doors because they don't know which door to go in. And they're in the parking lot, but then they're like, half the time, they've not been here before, they don't know where to go in.
Yeah, it does say gym entrance on the side of the building, but it's not really
Yeah.
prominent, so
No.
we need to make that, and maybe we can just do something right by,
Like
that
one of the
sidewalk
banner
that
things,
comes
even,
down.
yeah.
Yeah.
Something to help people know where the heck they're supposed to be
So
going.
we have been putting a sign out here, which people most likely probably to come over here that says the game entrance is.
Yes,
on the
I did
south
notice
side.
that, that's,
But yeah, we can definitely look at something on game night that we can set out there if it's not like a super windy night or something, maybe permanent on a couple of posts that says game entrance, that's not necessarily inside the building, but that's opposed to the sidewalk out there.
I thought it worked well at prom when you had Aaron James up there in the
With the
outfits.
Elvis.
oh yeah, that was
Yeah.
nice.
We can do a different
Good.
theme.
There's ideas being thrown out there.
But they did have the like look it down and
That was good.
yeah, that's pretty good. Cool. Awesome.
Can you speak a little bit more about this $10 or $100 option of DLRs?
Yeah, this it says, it looks like 10.
10.
Yeah.
It's 10,000, I'm sorry.
$10.
The difference at a period and a comma.
Right.
Mhm.
So the first option that they gave us, was basically, they don't go through like all of the community assessments and needs analysis and things like
Right.
that, because
We're doing
that was part of it. So that was the expense, that was $45,000 option. The $10,000 option is to continue to meet with us, to take the data that we already have, to do some interviews with staff members and like that, and then draw up some plans for what we envision and start being in the direction of like saving towards those things or planning.
Was this
3 different options?
This is what it may look like.
Well, there was
Is that right? Just two.
just two. It was a $10,000 option and the 40.
I mean, for drawings, for plans. Why do I
Um,
want to say there was like 3 different plans that they were gonna put together?
I'm gonna meet with
Like,
Chloe next week.
I can't remember why I was thinking 3 of something, but.
Well, they gave us 3 different design options when we were doing, before we finished. You know, so maybe that was, I don't know, but I'll talk with Emily because, Emily and I booked the LR, meeting scheduled with her to touch base about this again, and kind of tell her what our committee went and where we're at with that. So it's a meeting next week, so, on the 22nd. No, it is. It is tomorrow. I'll just look at my calendar. Anyway, I will be visiting with her soon, and I'll figure out if there was something else.
Some through negotiations, Matt?
Yeah, we've got a meeting set, Donnie, you probably tell me faster than I can look it up.
It's the
Next
22nd.
Tuesday, the 22nd, we'll be meeting with the NASB, and their team's gonna look a little bit different this year, so we're excited to have some fresh faces on there, and hopefully we'll have a productive season. I think it will be. I think everybody appreciates the work we did last year. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm only gonna sit being half of it, so.
So hopefully we're done by then.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Be done by the time.
I'm happy to meet as many times to get it done.
Be awesome.
Yep, so that's good.
And agenda 7.4 for professional development.
Yeah, so several here are at the NASB regional meeting in Fremont. So if anybody has anything particular they want to share about any of the sessions we sat in, this is the time.
I forgot that we did.
We'll have-
Yeah, we did go to that.
Yeah.
Their building is interesting.
Yeah.
It is something
CTV
crazy.
center.
As their TV center is crazy. Like
Yeah.
there's, yeah, I mean, they have like a mock, hospital, mock emergency room. And really a mock, auto tech lab
Yeah,
because
it's
they're
not
actually
real.
working on cars. They're actually building a house. It's amazing to see.
Yeah, so they're like assembling the walls and the framing of the house and then they'll move it on site and finish it. And they have bay for all the, all the different, like just about every car salesman in town, every
Dealership has a bay.
has a
Yeah.
bay.
Just about.
Um,
There's
yes.
Make
Yeah.
sure to contact everyone, so there weren't any hard feelings.
Yeah, and yeah, it's something, there's a lot of glass in there, everybody can see what everybody's doing all the time. And yeah, it's similar if you have been to the one in Grand Island. I think they kind of started the trend about 10 years ago, maybe a little bit longer than that, where they had centers like this, where they had, they had the same things. They had HVAC, they had electrical, they had construction, they had auto, they had IT, and things like that too. So they kind of started that concept of just that center. And I don't know exactly how Fremont does, but I kind of asked them a little bit, but like Grand Island, would they roll their kids in that like half of the day, so they would spend half of the day working in that particular career area. So
Neat.
Yeah, there's a lot of people there.
There were.
I thought it was, you always pick up something, I'm sure, in all the sessions you go to. A lot of focus, so much focus on the legislature that usually they do that as a breakout, but they did it in the main session for everybody. Just an idea of the focus that's going on in Lincoln with public schools right now. So.
Was it you that, I was not there, but I heard somebody that was making a comment about the enrollment numbers in education across Nebraska being on a downward trend or flat.
yeah, in that session, it's almost at John's back.
Yeah, that last one.
Like there's fewer kindergartners than there are seniors.
Yeah.
And that's the trend across the state. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll have to see if that's the upswing, if it's just one of those.
And then we sat in one about the teacher shortage.
It's
Yeah.
all in the same
Yeah.
one. So it talks about how basically, what like Mr. McAllister was talking about, how Nebraska schools are, when compared, apples to apples outperformed most of the states in the nation as far as ACT scores and the NAEP scores and things like that, how well we do, how funding that the schools receive from the state is less than those same schools that were, how our property taxes are higher than most of the states in the nation. And then we talked about some of those enrollment trends and like, how kindergartners are. It's probably not because of all the redshirting or all 5-year-olds in preschool. It has nothing to do with that.
No.
So the number, they're all quite a few less kindergartners than our seniors. So.
The last piece added was, I thought it was kind of interesting when we talk about in our community engagement, trying to engage with the community, obviously. How can we help families outside of just the classroom, or how do we like meet kids where they are when they're coming to us from just having so many issues at home, coming to school, how do we help them? And that was one of the things that a couple of different schools have really stepped in, and they were telling us about how many resources there are out there in different locations, different schools. Fremont's a really big one. I can't think of the name of it right now, but it's just more of, if you know that there's someone in need somewhere in the public school system, there's someone that can help you, and there's probably a grant for that, and there's probably, like, if you're interested in it, it's out there. You just have to find that resource. And in public school, there's so many places that they can help you get it set up. So it's nice to like go into these things is nice because you think about, okay, we may not see that need right now. We may have just a few kids that we're able to help, but if we had a larger need, like some of these big communities do, the resources are out there. So it's nice to kind of refresh your ideas and know that that stuff is there if you need it. So always interesting to go. Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, it's good.
Agenda item 8, unfinished business. 8.1, discuss, consider, and take necessary action to approve updated policy 1200 timeline and procedures on second reading documents.
Yeah, and we read this first last month. This is reading the paperwork and change to federal requirements of our Title IX policies. So, honestly, at this point in time, without looking at them line by line, side by side, we accept this change because it changed and then changed back and then it changed back again. And so I apologize for that, but these are the compliant ones, I promise.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve policy 1200 Title IX procedures. Does that get us there?
Mm-hmm.
As
I didn't have that one. We got it, the updated Title IX policy and forms.
Got that in.
Awesome. Yep.
I'll second it. Any further discussion? Let's vote.
Shannon Beaumont.
Yes.
Jason Up.
Yes.
Cassie Fussman.
Yes.
Jason Prattville.
Yes.
Brian Long.
Yes.
Matt O'Donnell.
Yes.
I think it's interesting at the bottom of that policy where it says legal reference. Normally you have statutes and things like that. It just I'm a legal reference. So. Anyway, sorry about that. There you go.
Agenda item 9, discuss, consider, and cast vote for NASB legislative committee member. We got a couple of these tonight. NASB has 2 elections up for our region area. Dr. Lewis, I'll turn this over to you.
Yeah. So they're the legislative committee members, so that they accepted nominations earlier this spring, or I'm sorry, this summer. And, actually, the reason Chase is going to turn this one over because he is one of the candidates. And so what the person do is it represents this area of our entire NASB, so it's 6, I believe is what. And so we get to vote for unless we vote for somebody else, but we should probably discuss if anybody had taken the opportunity to read the kind of the personal information from each one. They filled out their applications, and of course, Chase is well qualified to represent us, and to be a strong voice for on the legislative committee for things that are pertaining to schools of ours. If you take a look at the other candidates, it's a little bit like what Mr. McCall was saying too, though, like, as the role went on here, you've got Ralston, you've got Westside, you've got William Vista, so it's nice to have rural voices, it's nice that some from our own board is interested in taking a leadership role in our organization.
Does every school district get one vote here? Is that?
We get a vote, yes.
I don't know. So I'll make a motion to Cassie Arlington Board of Education for legislative committee member.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Let's vote.
Jason.
Yeah.
Cassie Fussman.
Yes.
Chase Gradwell.
I'm gonna abstain conflict.
Brian Locker.
Yes.
Matt O'Daniel.
Yes,
Shannon Wilmot.
Yes.
good luck.
Okay.
Good luck, Chase.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Yeah.
Agenda 9.0 for NASB Region 11 Board of Directors member. Dr. Lewis, pretty much everything you just this is a different committee that NASB uses.
Yeah, this is actually on like their board of directors, so if you look at the flyers sent out and you like look to like one of the back pages and they have their members of their board of directors on there, so they have, they'll have, yeah, these two are up for election right now, so I don't know, maybe there's people in here that know of Jim or Bob, so we have their bios there. If you want to take a look at those and to determine, this will be more of like the umbrella of like board of directors for, it'd be like on, you know, like this is the school board for Arlington Public Schools, this would be on the board of directors for NASB.
Are they just now putting this up for like open election? I feel like we've never.
This is the first
so
time
far.
I've ever gotten information like this, like asked to do. They may have, I don't know, they may, I wonder, because they do have like their delegate assembly that they do, I believe it's like a Friday morning of the state education conference, maybe they were not in high participation rate, and they thought it was better to get their votes cast. Maybe they wanted it done earlier than that, but no, I don't remember getting it in the past, I ever went to see it's open.
I appreciate it.
Well, it looks like Decatur Lions. Says he has 18 years on the school board. Retired teacher, 32 years.
Both of them are retired teachers of 30+ years,
Okay.
which is interesting to me, I guess, being a retired teacher and now on school board. Yeah. Obviously, they have a passion. It's
Yeah.
good.
8 years on the board, he's held office of vice, your North Benjamin, he's held the office of vice president, Lions Decatur, Southwestern secretary maybe. State conferences, you know, how do you feel comfortable about?
This is difficult because you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're both rural.
And I feel like they're both good options. It's not like they both have experience. Yeah. How do you want to rock, paper, scissors? Just kidding.
Yeah, I think that's beneath the board.
I know.
Yeah.
It's like, but how do we choose on people that we don't?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've met Jim once. He's been
Mhm.
he's been at the area meeting before. He's been doing this a while. And I was
I'm sorry.
yeah, go ahead. Matt.
Did you and I have lunch with him, Don, down at the Capitol once, possibly at Meet Your
That's a possibility at one of those
Senator.
legislative,
Meetings? I think
Yeah.
we did, yeah.
yeah, because then you sit at a table with, yeah, that's a good possibility, I bet we did.
Sorry, Chase.
No, you're good. Yeah. I met him at the last year's, and he was at this year. He was at this year's as well. Yeah, this is well, because we don't know these individuals.
And they both have similar goals. They want to be for like rural.
Yeah.
They both have the very similar goals.
Yeah.
And from North Bend, It's a lot of community activities, a lot of different areas that he was involved in.
And I was thinking about
like
that.
2/3 of a page.
And maybe that's because he typed
The
it out.
teacher of the year, the secondary teacher of the year, secondary science teacher of the year, Nebraska teacher of the year in 2011. So they have similar careers, but he's got a lot of, different accolades and things like that. I don't know if that's important. I'm just trying to compare the two
Sure.
of them.
Mhm.
And I like how he, it says that he does these Zoom meetings with this modern learners group. I feel like staying, up in current and education is important.
And a little bit of it is like a seniors here job resume. Somebody took the
Yeah.
time to type this out.
That's what I was just thinking.
Versus
Yep.
and it doesn't carry any consequence at all that we're putting this in our conference.
Yeah. No, obviously we're talking about individuals we don't really know, but to your points, when you're reading resumes, and this is really what we're doing here, Bob's resume stood out a little more to me than Jim's did. Yeah, that's kind of where I was at.
And probably we can't make a bad decision here. Probably both of them capable of, Mr. President.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to pass Arlington Board of Education vote for Bob Fuhrer for NASB Board of Directors member.
I will second.
So, second, is there any further discussion? Let's vote.
Cassie Fleisner.
Yes.
Chase Carter.
Yes.
Brian Longer.
Yes.
Matt O'Daniel.
Yes.
Yes. Jason.
Yes.
All right, motion carries.
I'm going to need you to sign both of those things.
Sounds good.
Okay. Okay.
Agenda item 9.3, discuss, consider, and take necessary action to adopt option enrollment capacities for 25-26. Dr. Lewis.
Okay, this is what Cass was talking about earlier. Our program capacities where we set our class sizes and our projected enrollments, which it's very difficult right now to project. So what this is pre-populated with is what our enrollment numbers were the day I did the report. And so they can fluctuate just a little bit. But what's important to know is that we have our program capacities set. Like under no circumstances would we have more than 54 kindergartners. And then I'm going to go back and probably, nope. And so we would not fill any classroom bigger than those. If you recall, like even if you look at 6, we're not projecting that we're going to add a third section. This is based on what we have. So 2 sections, our capacity there, and this is our option capacities. This is not our class size capacity because our class size for split capacity is higher than that. So like we would never want more than 23 students full with options in a 6th grade classroom or in a 5th grade classroom, if that makes sense. Our split capacity is higher than that. So we don't want to get ourselves in a position where we have to change class sections we have because of options. So this is based on what we determined quite a while ago for our capacities as far as that goes. So when you get to 7th and 8th grade and then high school, those have been there that way for some time. But the team and I haven't really had any chance to visit about them this year, but nobody has had a strong indication one way or other. Change those, Mr. Pinkston. Any thoughts, Dr. Morgan? Any thoughts on the elementary or the secondary side of those? I mean, they've been working for us. I think they were adjusted to this maybe my second year, so I know they've been here for probably 5 years, maybe 6.
So that's like, if it was perfect in each class, it's roughly 100 more kids than we have now.
If we got that amount of applications,
Yeah, right.
and we were in all of people.
And everybody's good with that?
But
That's a lot more kids.
we haven't had that many in, we haven't had that many in.
Well, but
And it doesn't
saying.
mean, yeah.
That's a
It's open to
possibility.
that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but if everybody's good with it.
Spread over 12 grades in a kindergarten class. About 8 students per class. I mean,
Yeah.
but you're right, 100 more kids in the building.
Yeah, 100 more eating lunch.
So, yeah, so where we typically see quite a few is kindergarten.
100 more, you get a bus.
And then seventh grade again, sometimes fifth grade you see a few because that's when they transition to out of elementary and it's Johnson Crossing at Fremont. But we haven't had significant numbers in some time, and they're not all approvable to.
Right.
We do know that, so, because we do deny for one reason or another. But, I mean, it's basically what it was last year too.
You know, having been on this board for 13 years, you just answered that question for me. I've heard this conversation many times about option kids, and I remember when I came in 13 years ago, that was a hot button for some of the people that wanted me to run for school board. And, you know, I'm not going to use that word. Until you're on the board or in the building or working, it's hard to understand how the option system works and how it fits into our classroom capacities. And my 2 cents on this is that the most important part is that the principals and the superintendent manage it properly. And I've always felt like that's been done here, whether it's been this team or prior superintendents and prior principals, that they're managing that correctly and listening to the board, and they're hearing the same things that we hear about, you know, inflation and everything. And it's also bothered me a little bit that, you know, when a kid comes here to Arlington, whether they're in the school district or outside of the school district, I mean, they're one of our kids. I don't think does anybody any favors to label option kids or even kids within the district once they're here. The law requires us to do that, but after that, they're friends, they're basketball players, they're volleyball players, they're football players, they're in the one act, you know, I mean, they're always kids. So I like the way this is presented. I think it works. I think it's being managed well. I think it works for our community and for our kids. I'm in full support here, so.
Yeah, Matt, to your point, things didn't really change, because I know when I came on board, it was the same deal. It was a big talking point in the community, and I asked a lot of questions early on about it, and put together that document, looked at it real in depth, and echo everything you just said.
And I don't say this to discount the importance of the option system in a school district, particularly ours. Again, I go back to the fact that it is being managed well, and there are some misperceptions maybe over how it works and what it does to the district. And also, you know, when you take into account the impact it has on our budgets, is very big. You know, I think we're doing a good job as a district here.
Who, like, besides just you on this, who all do you, like, chat with to decide on option students?
Well, we look at
Or how much you can,
like, well, this is just, it's based on sheer numbers and the amount of class sizes we have.
Yeah.
But, so they're collected, they're sent to the guidance office. So they're collected. And on March 15th, those that are coming in, like now, like we have some sitting in that have already sent them in for the next
For
year.
next year.
Start coming in, and then now the Fed director has to be part of the conversation if they come in with IEPs, because we have questions of their IEPs, know what their goals are and things like that. So it's really the three of us that are sitting down. So I approve or deny based on capacity or whatever. The ones that are non-SPED and the ones that come in with IEPs have to be approved by the SPED. And so we know what we're getting into because we see their notes from the pages first. So really there's two people, but I mean, Dr. Morgan is involved in conversations if we're looking at classrooms and
so there's lots of people that are checking to make sure that these are numbers that the school can handle. Yeah,
absolutely.
I think that's all, like, obviously you guys have been on the board for a long time. It's always a discussion in Arlington. I'm sure it's a discussion everywhere about option, because you worry about the, like, funding and making sure that we have enough, not only just the funds to handle all that, but the space to do it in the years, all those things. And I think that's one of the things that we have to take into account as board members. So it's just always something that comes up, everyone is worried about.
Yeah, Cass, to your point on funding, when we looked at it as an ad hoc committee a couple of years ago, and I'm not, it's a fact.
Yeah.
The funding we get from the option enrollment offsets funding that we would spend to for personnel and things like that cost. It's a
If
significant
you
number.
remove that, it was 6 or 7 cents on the levy, wasn't it? I forget.
At this time, it was 7, I believe.
It's, so now that Ascent is generating
Mhm.
like $90,000, and we're getting $1 million, 900,000,
So it's about
900,000
10 now.
in option funding. So yeah, it's on the levy.
And
Yeah.
really wouldn't reduce any expenses if all of those kids, or you may have,
Some classes do get bigger when you need them at 3 sections, and then you get applications in and you fill them a little bit fuller than they would have been, but we do a good job making sure we're not splitting into 3 sections unless we have the local capacity to do it. Yeah. This is built
so I
on.
mean, it's being managed correctly.
And that's a great
Good,
point.
good, yeah.
A option student cannot create a new section.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's gotta be an individual kid.
So I think Brian and I are new here, and like that's a big thing for us to, those are things that we hear a lot.
Mhm.
So it's good for us to know that, to be able to talk to people too.
Yeah, and that happens basically in kindergarten. In kindergarten, the size of the incoming local kindergarten class determines whether that's gonna be 2 or 3 sections. And a lot of time it's only been 2 sections, it's clear when the 4th. 5th grade this year, 6th grade on this chart.
Went through.
We're in kindergarten, which we've been my first year here, I think that's the last time we did 2 sections.
And I would say that having those option kids actually allows us to have class sizes smaller than they had been previously, because we can support that staff by funding. And then we have those, my first few years here, we were pretty full. Freshmen now at 26 and 27.
Yeah.
Kindergartners in class.
We always had 25 to
Yeah.
27.
I remember when we were talking, sorry. go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say that's Quinn's class, and it was very, very full. And I've been in a lot of districts and a lot of classrooms for various reasons, having in a classroom. I mean, it's like the sweet spot, and I think they do a very good job of knowing what the sweet spot is, so.
To Shannon's point, I remember when we were talking with the committee, I talked to almost all the elementary teachers, because this obviously acts on the elementary side much more. And about every one of them said the difference between 17 or 18 students and 25 or 27 is huge, just with learning and classroom sizes. So it was really interesting to do that. So.
I will make a motion to adopt the resolution to establish the capacity enrollment applications as presented.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Thank you, Cass. Jason, is there any further discussion? Let's vote.
Chase Carter,
Yes.
Brian Locker,
Yes.
Matt Daniel.
Yes.
Shannon Moore. Yes. Jason Art.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries. 9.4, discuss, consider, and take necessary action to adopt policy 3241, response mapping on first reading.
Yeah, so we will look at this again next month too as well. It'll be, it's like reading, and it's a pretty basic policy. It's not exceptionally long. It's just that we'll provide mapping data to public safety agencies for use in response to emergencies. We'll provide it in electronic or digital format, containing information in state statute as reasonably requested. So again, we have to have this policy in place before we can apply for the grant funding.
So that's how I want to make this question. Applying for, passing our policy is the first step towards getting a grant, towards
Yes.
getting all this in place,
To getting
towards
it, yeah.
having the mapping,
Right.
Ultimately making the district safer.
And it's better for responders if they need to. Like number one, if there's a medical emergency. Number two, if you have like an incident where you have lockdown or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we'll look at it again.
Okay.
Our 3,000 section in policy as well, there were no updates to any of these. So they're the same ones that we passed on last review. And we did in the meantime adopt 3205, which is like our use policy. That's the only new one in there. We've had it in place for 2 years. Yeah. But these are really just kind of basic nuts and bolts things. Some of them are a couple pages long, but lots of them are 1 to 2 lines or just a paragraph. So if anybody has any specific questions as you were looking through those. Procurement plan gets important when you're talking about like your hot lunch, your procurement plan code of that. So that just is a little bit different than our regular purchasing policies when you're talking about federal funds for hot lunch. That's the only one that probably, if anybody had questions about it, that would be, they have different thresholds for when you have to advertise, when you have to get multiple bids, things like that.
Okay. We'll do agenda item 26, review bus barn inventory and declare items of surplus for sale or disposal by superintendent Dr. Lewis.
Yeah, this is some things down in the bus barn. We're looking at clearing things out, making that usable space. We have the purpose for one room already, and Lawrence and I have talked about some other things along with the team. We'll continue to have some of those discussions about what we can do with that space down there, but we can't do anything because it's hard to even envision it. There's a lot of stuff down there that isn't getting access to on our basis. So Lawrence went down and took an inventory of the things that we have down there. These might be, this just does the ability not to go in and throw everything in the dumpster, but to like say, hey, we've got 100 desks that we're probably never going to use again. Hey, nurses school, does anybody want to buy them? Anybody need these chairs? Doesn't mean we have to get rid of them immediately, but in the future going forward, as we're planning things out, we can either dispose of or sell.
Will these be things that you could, that would be able to sell like to the community?
Yeah.
So there's,
If somebody wants to
you
come in
can
and
put it
buy
out in the
something
paper or
like
something?
that. Well, I'm not gonna do sealed bids on these things, nothing that's valuable enough
Yeah,
to like
but I'm saying like that you could
advertise it.
advertise.
We can say, yeah, these things have been declared surplus, if you would like to make us an offer.
Yeah.
First come, first served, you come pick them up on your own, make arrangements, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, we absolutely can do that.
Why do garbage bags go?
I don't know, they say
Those,
not.
I've got.
This came up on that.
Was that from the senior
I
break?
don't know.
Yeah.
I swear to God, that's what I said.
There are 5
I think
bags
they
down
have to fill
there,
my
like
office.
water bottles like that, they're empty. And on the bags, it's not garbage. I don't know why, so I'm gonna.
That's why they're on the list rather
Because
than
it
just.
says not garbage.
I do believe it was
Because when I saw-
Frank and someone was hiding in there.
I'm so glad
and
you're
they-
pointing.
Yeah.
Time. Okay, I
Take
just,
them inside a door.
Oh, it came up, yep.
oh,
I am going to say, if you approve,
You can buy them,
they
Cassie.
will be garbage.
I don't need, no, I don't
I
want
just
junk
thought
in
it
my
was
house.
it was a
What about
fun
the
addition
12
to the list.
I was like, am
Honestly,
I missing something?
Yeah.
no,
No,
You
I
need
don't.
they're actually,
You probably needed this. There you go.
so anyway,
Oh my gosh.
Cafeteria dining. maybe.
I'll make a motion to declare items presented as surplus and authorize superintendent.
thanks.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Let's vote.
Ed Long,
Yes.
Matt O'Daniel.
Yep.
Shannon Moore. Yes. Jason Arnold.
Yeah.
Cassie Fleisner.
Yes.
Jason Craddock.
Yes. All right, motion
To be
carries.
clear, if they didn't say not garbage on them, I would have thrown them away a year ago. Anyway.
So that was clever, whoever put that on there. Now we're voting on them.
No one
So
will
what you
throw them away
gotta do
if
is
we
make
put
sure
them.
none of the high school seniors buy it.
Exactly. I'm one sitting over
Those-
there.
Bag of trash,
That is
$100.
Hey, if someone wants to recycle them, then they can pay for that.
And the last thing I talked about a little bit already was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think we pretty much all talked about that and just getting bids so we know where we stand on it. Obviously, you do the possible price for that project. We have to put it out to bid for estimate. This is not saying we're gonna pay to sell a parking lot. We just basically saying, hey, let's get a bid to see the cost and what that may look like. Yes, I can imagine.
Probably 3 1/4.
Yeah, that's, yeah. Thanks for that, Jason. Yeah.
All right, I'll make a motion to authorize the superintendent to advertise for estimates for the south parking lot service.
Second.
It's moved and seconded, Ryan, Jason, any further discussion? Let's,
Matt O'Donnell.
Yes.
Shannon Woolman.
Yes.
Jason Art.
Yes.
Jessica Cluster.
Yes.
Granville.
yes.
Brian Lar.
Yes.
That seems like something Jason and Brian could do this week.
Yeah, come on, guys.
Just pour one truck a weekend.
Truck a week. Yeah.
We're gonna adjourn at 8:50 PM.
Wow.
That was square.
That was.
I don't know.
Yeah.